There we go. Woo. Good save.
Good catch, yeah.
Okay, so yeah, Gerald Baum.
She's smart. She knows what's going on.
And he's the one, if you remember, he's the one who showed up 15 minutes late to the interview and didn't really acknowledge that. Seemed pretty concerned with his compensation and what he was going to be paid if he got the job.
Really
Do you guys have any more
difficult.
as far as like pros and cons of hiring details?
I kind of took the look at like,
People there too.
because our reading was about synergy and like, like how people work together in groups. And I thought he would really do badly at the company because his ego would get in the way of him helping everybody else feel like they were part of the team.
Yeah, I just think anyone who leads with compensation questions and that's their sole focus is just there for themselves.
That sounds awesome.
They have zero interest in helping the team. So that's a huge red flag right away.
Yeah.
Great guy. Oh, my bad.
Go for it.
Was this the guy that like fired somebody during the middle of the presentation because they were like messing up?
I think so. Yeah.
Yeah, it is.
Okay. Like they were saying, I don't think he's like really a team player. He's more of like a lone wolf type of guy.
Yeah. I agree. Granted, he is like really, really good at what he does from the sounds of it. And he's probably good wherever he is, but just like you were saying, I think the synergy problem, I think it'd just be a huge, have a negative effect on the culture they kind of built at that company.
I've been going to
what do you guys think about?
Yes, Sunday nights singing Spanish.
Well, I'm guessing you guys wouldn't have hired him if you were in his position. Is that correct?
Yeah.
I definitely said no, but
I've been talking to a couple.
Yeah, he's a hard pass.
Okay. Oh, sorry, I skipped one actually. So then there's David Hughes. And he was the one who's been in the game for a long time, has a huge, extensive network, and I think he was rated number 1 in that ranking. You guys remember him?
What a disgrace.
Yeah, I think it goes back to kind of what Camisa was saying about the culture. He still doesn't seem, like the perfect fit for a culture. And, he's kind of, talked about his unwillingness to change his schedule to accommodate, people and kind of in the world of sales, that's which these guys, technically, are.
Right.
They're you have to accommodate your customers and be willing to, to do things to help them out and your company. And it just doesn't seem like it seems like he's kind of at that age in life, which isn't a bad thing. I mean, obviously ageism is a problem, but he's just unwilling to be flexible and kind of, work with others. So that'd be a huge issue.
Right, he's kind of set in his ways.
There you go.
I took another business class a while back, and it was I don't remember what it was called, but we read the book Good to Great. I don't know if any of you guys have read that one.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, and in the book it talks about like what kind of leaders are the best leaders.
That's a lifesaver right there.
He seemed like he wouldn't make a very good leader because in the book it talks about how like if you hire someone based on like them making the company great, it won't work. Like you have to keep in mind like all the principles and values that make the company great. And I feel like hiring a star like that would have like, I don't know, it just wouldn't have worked because he couldn't make the company great and they'd all be expecting him to. And then like the other thing in the reading was talked about how like whenever stars switch companies, their productivity decreases by like 20% or something because it's not
Mhm.
their
Yeah, that's right.
like ideal location for how they work. I don't remember exactly. I don't know if anyone
Yeah,
else
I've got
remembers.
it right here actually.
I don't even have school on Monday, so
Where did that go?
just work.
So yeah, it said that article says 80% of success can be linked to the environment that the
It's all right. I can miss
the
half
person finds himself in, and 20% is based on their personal talent. So yeah, definitely backs it up.
Yeah, I think it also mentioned his unwillingness to really, work with new technologies. And it seems like,
Oh yeah,
I think so.
that organization was, to get ahead, you've got to be up on new technology. It's going to stay ahead of the game. And,
right.
and he really relied a lot on his junior people to kind of take that work off his hands. And
Right.
I think that's another issue.
It's old fogey. Okay, what about Sonia? Unless you guys had any other thoughts about him. Anything else? Okay, well, Sonia she's the mother of two who's been at a much smaller firm but kind of has made a name for herself. And there were concerns around the work environment that she might not be able to, catch on with a much faster pace, much bigger market. What do you guys think about her?
I actually picked her as the person we should hire, mostly because I felt like she had a good work ethic, and she's on her way to greatness. And being with the company, I think she'd do really well with like the synergy, and I think she and Rena would work well together. I think they would complement each other's strengths. I also, yeah. And like in the article that we were talking about earlier, like it says you should grow your stars, not hire them. And I think she'd be a good growing candidate.
I agree. She's who I chose also. I thought that she'd probably be the best fit for culture because that was, all of her interview questions when she, had the opportunity to interview the interviewee were all based around culture and how she could fit in. And, I think things like being a single mother and having the, children at home, those things can be worked out if she has a desire. And it seemed like she had the desire to really fit in and work hard and, grow the international business as well. So she had a lot of upside.
Yeah, I think you can really see the difference between Sonia and someone like I think it was Gerald or Mr.
Yeah,
Baum.
Joe.
He's the one who like asked about how much he's gonna get paid and
Yeah.
like this and that, and Sonia is just like, so what's the synergy? What's the company work and all that? And I chose her too. I think she's the best.
We all did. There we go. It's unanimous. So yeah, that answers our next question. But yeah, I really like that I don't actually know what this means, but she made it to the rank of two. I think. Do you guys know what I'm talking about? Whatever that is, she did that, and she was at a much smaller firm, and so I think just like Jamisa was talking about before, her success was based much less on the environment she was in than her skill. So I think if she is given the resources and the network of a much bigger firm, then I think she'd just see exponential growth in her success from there.
I agree.
So I think we're all set on the Sonia thing. So I'm supposed to share the current salaries and the salaries that they would get if they worked at RSH. So David, his current salary is 1.3 million. Gerald is 0.9 million. Seth 0.7. Sonia 0.4. And Rena is 0.3. And so if they were hired at RSH, their salaries with the raises included would be David 1.5 million, Gerald 1.2 million, Seth an even 1 million. Sonia would receive 0.7 million, and Rena the same 0.3.
And I'm in the wrong business. Wow. Crazy.
So given that kind of spread of the salaries, I'm supposed to ask if you guys would change your minds about who you would hire and why. So it kind of goes in the expected descending order.
I think that almost even further validates who I'd hire. I mean, it seems like you're getting someone who's willing to do, a better job or work harder at a discounted price. I mean, almost half of what you're paying the top guy. So, I think that'd motivate her to get to that, 1.5. But, I think a lot of that's based on the rankings, like you said. But still, yeah, I think that further validates.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that.
I was looking through the case, and it said something about like there's like usually like a couple of really good years in the industry, and then it kind of plateaus, and then there's a couple good years, and they were on like the good years, and so it was going to plateau soon. So that was part of why I thought Sonia as well, because like she can get through the good years and then take some time to really understand things and be ready when the next upturn comes.
That's a good point. Yeah, I agree with what you guys are saying. It definitely shows while the compensation she's getting is not as much as everybody else, it just shows her worth, her capacity to work, and how valuable she can be to a company on a much smaller dime. But what do you guys think about Rena? Whether she should have gotten the position or not? She wasn't necessarily one of the candidates, but she's definitely, in the running. What do you guys think about her?
I think she was good. She was just maybe a little bit too inexperienced to be a senior analyst. But I don't know. I feel like she would have been my second option if I had one. I would have definitely chosen her to like stay inside the company and like let her grow, even though somebody like Sonia or Daryl or other people would like be better like sooner. She'd be like more long term, I guess.
Right.
I feel like the position requires being a people person in a lot of ways. Like it sounds like you have a lot of dealings with like the clients and stuff. And from what it sounded like, she was kind of an introvert. So I didn't really think she'd be the perfect choice.
I hadn't thought about that. That's interesting.
That seemed like she really struggled with connecting with people, like Camisa said. I mean, she was kind of getting bad reviews from coworkers, and there were some red flags being raised about her performance. So, I think she makes. There are some people who make really good junior analysts, kind of like there are people who make really good, lower level employees, but they just don't have the ability to progress or really move up. And maybe she falls in that category, maybe not. But yeah, I just don't think she's ready at this time.
Right.
Yeah, Aaron, you reminded me of something else. A lot of the other employees didn't feel like she should be in the position, and like if he'd left her in the position, he could have gotten some fallout from all the other employees. I feel like, and that would have been like a decrease in morale and stuff. So like, as terrible as it sounds, like you have to kind of take into account the office politics and stuff. I think too.
Good point too. Kind of goes back to what we were talking about last week a little bit. What do you guys think about? Here's the question: should Steven have let Peter go? What do you guys think? I don't know how much control he had over it, but
Yeah.
and then there honestly isn't a ton about Peter and like his personality or what kind of worker he was within the company.
Yeah, I think if he's got to the point where he's ready to leave the company, even if you throw more money at him, there's going to be a point down the road that they're still going to want to leave the company or look for something else. And obviously, something had triggered, some reason for him to go look outside of the company. And, he almost reminded me a lot of that. What was the first guy we talked about? Gerald.
Gerald Baum.
Yeah, he reminded me of kind of that, where he was just in it for the money and, kind of jumping around and just trying to build himself up instead of, really working with the team. So, yeah, I think it was a good choice to let him leave.
That's a good point. So if you guys got the text here, it's massive. I'll just add some of the input from Dylan. Should Steven have let Peter go? I'm undecided. He wasn't discussed much, but from what the other material said, you have to try to keep your stars. That's a good point. So yeah, I guess he should have offered a raise maybe. But I think what you said, Aaron, kind of dematerializes that argument. But stars also shouldn't be motivated as much by the money. Don't know. I still like Shia and Mitha though. So there's that input. So we kind of already went over this a little bit, but what are your guys' thoughts about how performance translates from company to company? Does performance at one company guarantee high performance at another, or what are your thoughts?
I think it's, from my experience, it's funny, my coworker and I were just having this conversation tonight. You've got to have a passion for what you do. Doesn't matter who you work for. If you're not passionate about the work that you're in, you're going to suffer no matter what company you're in, no matter how much money you're making. So, I don't know if that was the case with Peter. Obviously, if you're getting paid $1.5 million, that might soothe a lot of the pain that you have, or a lot of the anger you might have. But I don't know. I still think you gotta, and I don't, like I said, I don't know much about Peter. It seemed like Sonia loved her job. Because she really tried in it, and I think that's going to manifest itself where you work, whether it's a small boutique that she was doing before, or a bigger corporation like what she's moving to. She's going to be successful because she loves what she does.
I agree.
I've done 2 internships with 2 different construction companies, and I found that a lot of it had to do with the company culture, with like how I felt like I did, or like what kind of progress I made, or like my work performance. Because like both companies are great, and both of them I had really good mentors, but like the one company had more of like a party by drinking culture, and so like every time they would get together, it was always like drinking and like some sort of like alcohol, and it just like, I don't know, like I didn't feel like I was able to thrive as much there. And I mean, like that's obviously not like the main things, but like what the company culture feels like has a lot to do with like how comfortable you feel with other people, and then it like affects how comfortable you feel with like your job and talking to people about the important like issues that come up.
That's funny. That's my world the last 5 days, is being around a bunch of drunk people. So.
Well, Aaron, you said you've been, is it 2 companies now you've worked with, or is it more than that? I can't remember.
Well, it's been 3 like Fortune 500 companies, but
Oh,
been
3.
with a
Okay.
couple more than that. Yeah.
Would you agree with Kamisa's experience about how like the culture was really um, like it had a lot of effect on your performance or your feelings working there?
Oh yeah, I think culture's huge in the workplace. You have to fit in with the culture, and I think on any team that you are, and it's a little bit different, being in Utah, because
Yeah.
a lot of the, you have your local team culture, but then when you go experience like a national conference like we're at, there is a different culture within the organization as a whole. But I think if you can find a good, team culture to be in, that shields it from a lot of the bigger culture that you see elsewhere. Because any large, huge company is, the culture is going to vary from team to team to team across the
Oh,
country.
that's
But
true.
ultimately, if they have good goals in mind, then things tend to work out, which has been the case with the 3 they've worked with. So.
The other part I didn't mention about that company was that like the people I actually directly worked with, we were a really tight group and we didn't drink usually. So it was really nice. Like, even though I didn't feel like we fit in with the rest of the office as much, we still got along really, really well together. And so that made work really enjoyable.
That's good. Yeah, that's
Yeah, I think
interesting what you
that.
guys are saying there.
Oh, go ahead.
I just think it's really interesting that, within a culture there can be kind of subcultures that affect you more than maybe the umbrella culture of the company, if that makes sense. I hadn't really thought about that
Yeah, it's
aspect
very.
before.
I mean, it's very true because this conference we're at, right? There's 12,000 people here, and our team's comprised of 10 of those, and so our little pack of 10 tends to hang out with everybody because we're different than everyone else, and so, but it's still, it still works. So they just think we're weird when we turn down drink after drink after drink, and we go to the bar and ask for like a Diet Pepsi or something.
That's funny. Well, from here we're supposed to discuss the types of human capital. And if you guys remember the link to it's a sheet with kind of a spectrum from, often portable to rarely portable types of human capital. Do you guys have that? Or do you remember that?
Find it again really quick.
We can just go over this real briefly. So yeah, I guess just to go over it, portability basically like how well these kind of skills within a person's wheelhouse, how well they translate from company to company and how they work, synergy with with the company they work with now and maybe one that they transfer to. So we've got general human capital, which is the most portable, strategic human capital, industry human capital, relationship human capital, and company specific human capital. So I don't know what else we need to talk about with that, but did you guys have any thoughts while you were looking at that? All I thought was really, okay, it's interesting, but nothing really, no real insights came to me. But did you guys have different experience?
Looking at it, the top, the most portable, it kind of strikes me that it appears that like that's who you are, and then the bottom is like kind of just what you know. So it matters more about who the person is than what they know necessarily. I don't know. Do you feel like that's a correct statement?
Yeah, I think if you have, you know, the ability,
Yeah, probably.
kind of like what Camiso's saying, to relate to people and connect with them, you're going to do well. I know, you know, whatever you're in. You know, there are those people who are very, very, you know, knowledgeable about, like it says, industry. You know, I get that a lot in my current job. There's some people who are really, really smart, know what they're doing in the industry, but they can't connect with humans. And so they're pretty much stuck, you know, working in this industry because they can't really relate to other opportunities or other positions. So
Yeah, that reminds me of like Gerald, because he's like they said he was really smart and he was like one of the best analysts or whatever, but he wasn't really a people person to like communicate and work well with other teams. And I feel like if he was just good at communicating, then he would have definitely gotten the job.
Yeah, that's a good point. I like how you connected it back to the original the case study there. So where would you say Sonia's kind of, where does she fall in this spectrum?
Think. Okay.
I'd probably throw all of them, or you know, a lot of them in the strategic human capital. You know, it says they have experience gained from you know, experience in situations, which kind of is like the semiconductor industry that they're working in. I don't know. It seems like that's kind of the where they're at.
Right, I guess that was a dumb question, but yeah,
I don't know.
it's definitely an intricate
Mhm.
market segment they're working in. But I can definitely see how, you know, Gerald, like you were saying, Andres, that his skills just don't really carry over because his communication makes it really hard to relate with the people around him, no matter where he is. And I would say that Sonia is definitely, you know, on the opposite side where she's all about the culture and she's all about the work she's doing rather than the selfish, you know, compensation. So I feel like with the reading in the seven or the habits book and this case study, I feel like he's trying to fish a certain candidate out from us. And I think it's definitely Sonia just because of the synergy topic. She definitely fits that role. It's kind of what I noticed. But well, that's all the questions here on this list. Do you guys have any other closing thoughts or just kind of takeaways from this week?
No, I'm good.
Okay.
Mhm.
It's
Anybody
been a
else? We're
long
good?
week. I'm checked out, so
Yeah, let's call it good. All right. Well, I think I'm doing it next week, I believe, for lesson 7. So I'll send out the link again next week and we'll reconvene.
well,
Thanks,
thanks,
Oliver.
guys.
All right. Thanks, guys. Have a good
Have a
week.
good night. See
Bye,
ya.
Anders.